Good morning, I'm Maddie Jansen, and this is the podcast of 17 News at Sunrise. It's everything you need to know to start your day in about 15 minutes.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Right now, overnight, more bodies were recovered after that devastating boat fire, and we're learning more about some of the victims.
Hailed as heroes, 5 local teens are honored for saving a life, the action they took that's now being praised.
And preparing for the worst, a new school is being built and designed to keep students safe in case of a mass shooting. How this school differs from a traditional learning environment. It's Wednesday, September 4th, 2019. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher, and seeing more of those clouds all over the place yesterday, at least up in the mountains. Not much has come of it, though.
Yeah, but we were not 100 degrees yesterday, so we were.
I thought we were.
I think we were right, like 99, right, Kev?
I thought Alyssa last night at 5 said we just touched the triple digits.
Oh, 100 degrees, okay.
We made it.
I'm sorry.
We made it.
I should say, I apologize. I checked my phone. The weather on my phone said yesterday's high was 99.
Well, it wasn't nice to you.
Apparently it was taking another weather station.
Yeah, well, 100 degrees was the high yesterday. It was warm. It's going to be a little warmer today. The record temperature on that day is 112, set back in 1955. So we continue to be warm. Maddie mentioned the clouds up in the mountains, and we've got the chance of seeing that again today. And we have a little bit of that drifting in from the southwest, and so we may see an isolated thunderstorm develop this afternoon. It is in the forecast. 78 degrees right now in Bakersfield. A light wind out of the northeast at 3 miles per hour. And as we take a look at the temperatures throughout the day, we'll be right near 82 at 9, and then jumping up into the triple digits by 5 o'clock. And then for the mountains, 61 degrees into Tehachapi right now, an east-northeast wind at 3. And as we take a look at the temperatures throughout the afternoon here, we are going to be looking at 77 at 9, and then look at that, lower 90s throughout the afternoon. I've got much more on your weather in just a little bit, but first we're going to send it over to Alex. He's got a check of your morning commute.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Taking you outside for the first time this morning to the 99 near White Lane, and as you can see, it's picking up over there on that side of town. A little more busy than it typically is around this time of morning, at least at that point. Everything else around the county looking pretty good for the most part. No major incidents to report at this time. We'll keep you updated if anything changes. And we'll have another check coming up in about 15 minutes. We begin this morning with breaking news out of Hong Kong. Chief Executive Carrie Lam has announced the government will formally withdraw an extradition bill that has sparked months of demonstrations in the city, bowing to one of the protesters' demands. She made the announcement in a pre-recorded television message. The bill would have allowed Hong Kong residents to be sent to mainland China for trials. It sparked massive protests that have become increasingly violent. Lam said the government will not accept any other demands from protesters.
The search for survivors is over, and now the efforts turn to finding answers as investigators try to piece together what went wrong in Monday's deadly boat fire. 34 people are now presumed dead after the Coast Guard called off the search for survivors yesterday. The Coast Guard also shared aerial video showing the moments crews arrived at that fiery boat accident off the Santa Cruz Island. Last night, the coroner was seen at the harbor, picking up more victims. So far, search and rescue crews have pulled 20 bodies from the sunken vessel. Divers have spotted 4 to 6 other bodies underwater and continue to look for the remaining people missing. The Santa Barbara County Sheriff says DNA will be needed to identify the victims. Investigators plan to use the same rapid analysis tool that identified victims of the deadly campfire last year.
Investigators haven't released victims' names, but the sheriff says he's heard the victims range from teenagers to people in their 60s, and most appear to have been from Northern California. Family members have started to identify the victims. One of the victims, 25-year-old Alexandra Kurtz. Her photo seen here at a makeshift memorial in Santa Barbara. Her mother collapsed to the ground and began to sob when she saw the photo of her daughter. Yesterday, she talked about her daughter's free spirit and love for adventure.
She just wanted to follow her dream of the ocean, the sea, and diving. That's what she wanted to do. That's where she was happy at.
Both the NTSB and Coast Guard are investigating the fiery accident. NTSB investigators plan to be on scene for about a week. They say they won't determine the cause of the fire while on scene. That part comes later in the investigative process. But they do feel confident they'll figure out what sparked the blaze.
I am 100% confident that our investigators will determine the cause of this fire, why it occurred, how it occurred, and what is needed to prevent it from happening again. Absolutely.
Investigators say they've already gotten written accounts from the 5 crew members who survived. They are reportedly cooperating with the investigation.
They're being hailed as heroes. The Wasco City Council honored 5 Kern County teens for the action they took that potentially saved a life. 17's Karen Wall was at the City Council meeting and has that story.
They're only juniors and sophomores in high school, but they're already being hailed as lifesavers. It all happened 2 weeks ago while they were on a trip with the Sheriff's Activities League.
It started with a group trip to Wild Water Adventures in Clovis.
It happened too fast.
And these teens walked out as heroes.
You guys put the best face forward for our community, and we appreciate your heroism. It's no small feat.
When these 5 Wasco High students saw a girl struggling in the water, they first called lifeguards for help.
You wouldn't expect us to be in that position because you would expect adults to do something, but at that time no adults were actually doing anything.
They imagined the worst case scenario.
Panicked that someone was gonna drown and we would have to get out of here, following an ambulance or something.
Then they sprang into action.
She can't swim because she had a cramp then. So I swam back, and then Haley grabbed the girl, and the girl grabbed on both of us together.
They held the girl above water until a deputy pulled her to safety. They attribute their quick thinking to SAL.
1, 2, 3, SAL!
The Sheriff's Activities League. They've been members of the club for about a year.
I actually wasn't surprised because I know they always do the right thing.
Acts of impulse that had a high impact.
These kids say the most important lesson they learned: don't be a bystander. I'm Karen Hua, 17 News.
Hurricane Dorian is weakened to a Category 2 storm, but this morning it continues to batter the Bahamas with dangerous storm surge. It's the most powerful storm on record ever to hit the islands. Dorian parked over the islands for a day and a half, and the Bahamian government has confirmed the storm has killed at least 7 people. But the full scope of Dorian's impact is still not known. Now the storm is beginning its track along the eastern seaboard, where evacuations are underway. People in the Bahamas described what it was like to endure the storm.
Well, going through it was terrifying, and I had no idea it was going to actually be to that extent. It was just worse than anything I could have imagined. I went through Hurricane Matthew, which was another strong storm, and that paled in comparison.
A Red Cross spokesman said more than 13,000 houses, or about 45% of the homes in Grand Bahama and Abaco, were believed to have been severely damaged or destroyed. And as you just saw, Dorian hit the Bahamas hard, so the Walt Disney Company and Royal Caribbean are pledging $1 million each to help the Bahamas recover. Disney says it will make donations to nonprofits that work on recovery and rebuilding. The company's also promising to send food and construction materials directly to victims. Royal Caribbean says it's already loading things like water, generators, and cleaning supplies onto its ships to deliver to the Bahamas. Both companies have operations in the island nation.
Though Dorian is losing strength, people in the U.S. are still getting ready, and crews from California are headed to the storm zone ready to help in the aftermath of the hurricane. 7 urban search and rescue teams left yesterday from parts of the Bay Area, Los Angeles, San Diego, and Sacramento. They'll help local first responders in areas impacted by Dorian. This isn't their first rodeo. California's urban search and rescue teams also went to North Carolina after Hurricane Florence hit last year, in addition to assisting with numerous other natural disasters.
A Caliente man found guilty of killing his friend during an argument will soon learn how long he'll spend behind bars. You may remember back in April, jurors found Daniel Rhodes guilty of second-degree murder. Rhodes shot William Alford last October and admitted to putting his body in a trash can. Court documents say Rhodes claimed Alford forced his way into his home, demanded items of value, and threatened him. Police still have not found Alford's body. Rhodes is set to be sentenced to life behind bars for the murder. He's due in court later today for sentencing.
You'll soon see "In God We Trust" decals on police cars in Taft. Last night, the City Council unanimously approved adding our nation's motto to patrol cars. In recent months, the cities of Bakersfield, Delano, and Shafter have also added the decals to its police cars.
Wading into the national gun debate, Walmart makes a bold move in the wake of recent mass shootings.
In about 20 minutes, what the retail giant is banning and how the NRA is responding. Moments for a pair of Lakeside Elementary students as they waited for a school bus. Bakersfield police say a teenager flashed a gun at two of the students yesterday morning. BPD says the teen didn't threaten the students, who told teachers when they got to school. Officers determined the teen attends Independence High School and stole the gun from a relative. Officers found the gun at a home, but the teen wasn't there. They say he faces a charge of unlawful possession of a firearm.
With mass shootings dominating the headlines as students across the country head back to school, parents and school administrators are struggling to find the answer to the question, how do we keep our kids safe? This morning, we're getting a look at a new kind of school that could be part of the solution. It's a $48 million design meant to deter an active shooter. NBC's Kate Snow takes us inside.
You needed a new high school.
We did.
Superintendent Bob Shimoniak says they had no choice but to think about security when designing their new high school.
You have no idea how horribly I feel about when I think about these things, when I think about the children having to worry about it.
So the school in Fruitport, Michigan is specially designed for safety. No more lockers in the hallways, instead short lockers in a common area so teachers can see 900 students at once.
So the shape of this hallway matters.
It does. So it was designed as a curve for a couple of reasons, and one of the reasons is to cut down on the line of sight of an active shooter, God forbid that we have one.
Yeah.
And we also installed these wing walls to provide safety for students to hide behind if there's a threat down the hallway.
A grant from Michigan State Police paid for impact-resistant film on the windows and a special system to lock down specific sections of the school.
How do you lock down the school if that's needed?
We would lock down with the push of a button. If I'm a threat and I'm here and we go into lockdown, I can't get anywhere else.
Inside classrooms, another important wing wall.
In this little area here. If, God forbid, there were an active shooter and we're back here, he can't see us.
Right. You could fit about 30 students in here, sight unseen.
When students fill these halls in January, the hope is they'll see areas for small group work, not security measures. Parents and students we spoke with are supportive.
I think it's a good thing.
I don't have to think about, what if a shooter came in right now? I can just focus on, Spanish class.
Megan Johnson helped raise the bond money for the project. Her kids are still in elementary school.
These kids have never grown up in a world without knowing about school shooting.
It kind of gives me the goosebumps thinking about it, but it's the world that they live in, and it's what they know, and hopefully we can just make it so it's not something that they have to focus on.
A generation learning in a whole new environment.
Look at this, Mom. Fishies and turtle.
That was NBC's Kate Snow reporting.
It's just another sign of the times that we live in,
It's terrifying to think of. It's terrifying. As a mom with kids, thinking of them going into bigger and bigger schools. Yeah.
All right, it is 5:23 now, and looking to buy a home? You could be writing a bigger check.
The reason home prices are on the rise once again, coming up in your 17 Business Watch.
KGET Business Watch is brought to you by Grapevine MSP Technology Services, the Valley's leading IT service provider.
And if you're looking to buy a home, you're probably going to be paying a little bit more because home prices are going up again. Home price gains shrunk over the last year, but shot up again this summer. Real estate experts say the rise is likely driven by millennial home buyers, more than a quarter of whom said they're interested in buying a house in the next 12 months. That's according to a survey by financial services company CoreLogic. Home prices were up almost 4% in July compared to last year. CoreLogic now predicts even bigger jumps in housing prices by next July. While millions of Americans invest in stocks in their 401ks or other accounts, millions more don't. One of the reasons? They don't understand how it works. That means they feel uncomfortable putting their hard-earned money in them. Money expert Stacey Johnson is here this morning to demystify the market.
2030 on 480. Yeah, I've been down here 33 years, Stacey, and I have to say that I've loved every day that I've worked down here, the bad days, the good days. I just love working here, and I look forward to going to work every day.
Peter Costa is a floor broker at the New York Stock Exchange. His job, when you want a stock, he buys it for you. Since stocks are an important part of your savings, or at least they should be, you need to understand what's happening here. And it's really not as complicated as it may look. Think of buying a house. Rather than go it alone, most people use agents. Those agents help you get the best deal when you want to buy or sell property. And that's basically what you're seeing here. Brokers like Peter are helping buyers and sellers get the best price they can. Instead of houses, though, they're doing it with shares of stock, which are nothing more than slices of American companies.
Well, if you put in an order to buy 100 shares of Visa, for instance, the order will come and get routed to my handheld, which the exchange has supplied us. It's a tablet computer. And what I'll do is I'll come out to the stock and I'll buy 100 shares of Visa.
So the next time you see the exchange floor, remember, this is just people who are trying to help you own slices of American companies. Why? Because over time, although they're risky, they can make you richer. So if you don't get it, it's time you did. For more information, go to moneytalksnews.com and just do a search for investing. For Money Talks News, I'm Stacey Johnson.